Sheridan, just talk to us about the company involved here, because this isn't actually the smelter or the mining capacity isn't coming from Ford. They're sourcing it elsewhere.
That's right. The company's called Norsk Hydro, or Hydro, as some other people say. It's based in Norway. They have a refinery in the Amazon in Brazil. And that refinery has been operating for many years. And the people who live around it, about 11,000 people, have joined a class action lawsuit. And they say that the company is polluting the environment, their drinking water is undrinkable, and that they actually want to bring a case against Norsk Hydro in a court in the Netherlands to seek compensation for the pollution that they allege is making them sick.
Ford did, of course, come back, a spokesperson you'd spoken to within your reporting. Ford is committed to a supply chain that exceeds minimum regulatory compliance requirements, they say, and respects human rights, including the right to clean air and clean water. But ultimately, how focused are companies such as Ford to their supply chain at the moment, to ensuring that they're ethical?
So it's quite complicated. Supply chains are very difficult to trace in order to find out that these products from the Amazon go into the Ford F-150 in the EV and in the 150 both. They make up the exterior panels, almost all the aluminum that you can see on the outside of the F-150. Its origins are in Brazil. And the way that you trace this is you look at the bauxite mine that's in the middle of the rainforest. It has expansion plans. It's already 3 times the size of Manhattan. It wants to expand another size of Manhattan to deforest that area, get the bauxite out of the middle of the Amazon, take it to this refinery that is alleged to be polluting, and then it's smelted in Quebec, and then it goes to the parts makers in the United States, and then from there it goes to Ford. And so you look at the entire aluminum supply chain, so of course going into almost all the aluminum that we do have in the United States. But the way to tell the story and the way to look at it is through Ford and to track the specific parts all the way back to their origins in the Amazon. So because supply chains are so difficult to trace and so non-transparent, I think it's difficult for the end user to necessarily know what the origins are in the Amazon.
It's difficult to trace, but you did do a fantastic job of the big take in doing exactly that. But in reverse, right, start with your F-150 Lightning, work backwards, and we get to bauxite, right? So explain to our audience how we work out how the contamination is happening. My understanding is that bauxite is then processed to alumina, and alumina is basically the white powder from which aluminium, as I used to say, is derived. What have we learned about how that contamination is happening within the Amazon itself?
That's right. So bauxite mining itself is kind of a dirty business. They use strip mines to claw up the earth, a lot of the runoff from the bauxite. And at this particular mine, it's called MRN, in the middle of the Amazon in the rainforest. For many years, they were just kind of dumping large quantities of bauxite tailing waste into a nearby lake and polluting the environment that people rely on there to live. Their fish, their water supply, their water for washing, their drinking water, everything was affected by this mining operation. Even years later, it's impossible to clean it up. People there told me when I went there to go and talk with them. So that's one of the aspects of the contamination that you see at the very source. Of course, MRN itself says they are operating within legal parameters and they take measures to try to minimize the impact on the environment. That said, bauxite mining itself is actually quite, destructive for the environment to a large extent. And then the bauxite travels 800 miles down the Amazon River. I followed the trail of the bauxite, went all the way down the Amazon River to the end, to the refinery itself, making alumina, the white powder that becomes aluminum, is itself a very difficult, coal-burning, intensive process. That technology has been around for 100 years. It hasn't changed all of that much. And in fact, you add caustic soda and lime to this solution, and you store the waste of that. They take measures to try to make sure it doesn't escape into the environment. The people who live around it say that it does.